Hi guys, Sara here from Highland Haven Australian Shepherds and Highland Haven Dog Training, and welcome to episode 6 of our podcast, Dog for Thought. Joining me is my co-host, daughter, and dog trainer extraordinaire, Sophie.
Hi everyone.
So how you doing today, Soph?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Give us an update on Dogland. What's going on?
Well, I think we're both a little bummed with the outcome of this breeding season. Would you agree?
Yes. Well, why don't you tell the audience what we expected and then what we ended up with?
Well, we were expecting both of our females to be pregnant, which did not happen. We had Journey became pregnant, not Twiggy. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, Journey had a very small litter. And then on top of that, we ended up losing a puppy, which was a bummer. So we ended up with 2 puppies instead of 16 puppies like we originally planned. So,
right. So that in a nutshell is the definition of dog breeding. You plan for 2 litters and 16 puppies, and you get 1 litter of 2 puppies.
Yep.
So when people talk about dog breeding, you know, when they hear about how much people make when they sell puppies and all that, the thing about dog breeding is that it is so inconsistent.
Yep.
That's why I wouldn't do it full time for a living for a myriad of reasons. But one of them is it's not something, because you're talking about living creatures and things you can't control, which is much of dog breeding, as the things you can't control. You can't control how much money you make in any particular year. So there'll be years when, yes, you make a profit breeding dogs. And then there'll be years that you lose money making dogs, so breeding dogs. So it's a very up and down business, if you want to call it that. Our dogs live in our house with us, so we don't have kennels. So we really can't have more than 2 breeding females at any given time. I mean, as it is, we have 8 dogs. That's pretty much our max. 8 or 9. Then we have 2 breeding females. They finally sync their cycles. We bred them. They each were ready to go a week apart, and we end up with 2 puppies. And
we could even talk about how we took more measures to make sure they were both pregnant and did, side by side, and we did all this extra stuff to try to really ensure that they would both be pregnant. And no matter what you do, I mean, nature is nature. You can try all you want. You can test the semen, see if it's active. You can make sure their eggs are, you could do all this stuff. And even then, it doesn't
end up
work
with 2
out.
puppies.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And we also, for the first time ever, had a stillborn puppy.
Yep.
Which was not as shocking or upsetting to me as people might think, only because I've sort of been waiting for this day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is part of, doing any kind of breeding with any animal, especially when you're talking about an animal that has a litter, so a large number of offspring at one time. It is normal for not all of them to make it in the wild, right? We have never lost a puppy. We've never had a stillborn puppy. So although it was a shock, there was nothing that I could have done. I was whelping them alone. You were sleeping. And there was nothing I could have done. I think it would have been much harder and much more upsetting to me if he had been born alive
and
then died. Yeah. Because then I would have been like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? What could I have done? In this case, there's nothing I could have done. He was just born sleeping. He obviously had died very recently, within an hour of being born, I would guess, because he was not at all, he was completely formed. He was not decomposed at all, which is good because that can make the mom really sick. He just was absolutely perfect, but
he
not
just
breathing.
Didn't wake up.
Yeah, really sad. It did not bother Journey so much, which is good. I had a couple of questions online about that. Was she upset by it? No, she did. I did let her sniff him and check him out. I did work on him for 20 minutes, and I got no results. So he was long dead. There was no coming back from that. And Journey just turned her attention to the 2 beautiful live puppies that we had, and she seems fine with that.
Yeah, she seemed curious, why is there a puppy up on the counter? And so she kept kind of going over there, and every time we would bring her the puppy, she would sniff at it and just be like, oh, he's not even worth paying attention to. And she would go back. So it's a very primitive reaction, which makes sense. Let's work on the ones that are alive. And that's what mothers would do in nature. If, they lost a puppy, they would work on the ones that are alive, not the ones that passed. So,
and if normally when we hold a puppy, we're weighing them and cleaning them up after they are born, the moms will be very agitated.
Yep.
They want us to give those puppies back right away. In this case, she just sort of sat there and watched, but didn't show any indication of, I want my puppy back. So it's clear she knew that this wasn't, he wasn't normal. And like animals do, she moved on.
Yep.
So we do have 2 beautiful little puppies. We have a male red merle, which I was not expecting a red merle.
I was not expecting a red merle at all. I wasn't even expecting a red at all. Like I just thought maybe blues and blacks again.
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping, keeping my fingers crossed for a red merle female or a red tri-female. So when he came out, I was like, they're all wet. So sometimes the red, looks very much like the black when they're all wet and after they've just been born. But I was like, gee, he looks kind of red. And then I started cleaning him up and I was like, please be female, please be female. And I turned him over and he was a male. But he's gorgeous.
Yeah, if I didn't live at home, I probably would ask to keep him.
Yeah, he's going to be beautiful.
He already has a pretty long coat and he's already has this huge head and very much so like I always wanted a red merle male.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's going to be gorgeous. And then we have a black tri female who's adorable. Both of these puppies were enormous.
Yeah, they're huge.
Normally our puppies are about 13 ounces when they're born, the big ones on the big side. These guys were over a pound, 1.2 pounds, and I think 1.1 pound, which we've never had before.
Nope.
Makes sense. There was a lot of room in that uterus because there was just 3 puppies. So they grew bigger than normal. It was somewhat of a more difficult labor for her than previous labors because of the size of the puppies. That might have been why we got a stillborn puppy, but they're 2 beautiful puppies, and you named them Bonnie and Clyde, which I thought was perfect.
Yeah, because they're both like rebels, like the 2 rebels together.
So overall, Journey did great, and the puppies that we have are healthy. Most importantly, Journey is healthy.
Yep.
That's always what I say. My mama is the most important player whenever we have puppies. So she is healthy, and the 2 puppies are great. So we appreciate what we've got, and we move forward.
Yep.
All right. We should probably, speaking of moving forward, get on to the podcast. What do you think?
Let's do it. Mm-hmm.
All right. So today's episode is called Whelping 101. And to be very basic, let's start with what whelping means. It means for a dog to give birth.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about whelping a litter, that means birthing a litter. Why it's called that for dogs, I don't know, but it is. So I guess we could start with the materials that we have gathered over the years and how we set up our whelping room in preparation for the puppy's arrival. You want to get started?
Yeah, so you want to talk about like Remy's first whelping box and how we had that like really cheap one that you buy off of like Amazon that you like put together and you can't take it apart. And so we learned from that mistake of like having this huge whelping box that you can't take apart. So we built our own.
Yeah, so the first whelping box I got was from a company called Easy Whelp. They're still in business. They're an excellent company. They provide great whelping boxes. But I think this was one of their first versions.
Yeah.
And one of the things we learned really early on was the inability to take it apart and put it back together over and over again, because you're going to be reusing it from litter to litter, was not there for that box.
No, not at the time anyways. I don't know if they have new boxes that are like more stable or
their new
like
boxes are really completely redesigned. Okay. And they snap together and unsnap to store. You know, your whelping box is going to be sitting in your closet for whatever, how many weeks in a year? 52. So it's going to be sitting in there for like 48 weeks of the year where you're not using it. So it's important to have one that folds down or stacks really small so we can store it. That's the thing with breeding puppies, is that as the years go by, you get more and more things for them, which is great. You know, more climbing toys for them, multiple whelping boxes if you have multiple litters, all of the accoutrement that goes in the box, the heat lamps and the, the towels for the bottom. And you got to store those somewhere. Yep. So there's a lot of storage when you breed dogs.
Yeah, and unless you're like doing it 24/7 and you have like
and you just leave
a basement
set up.
And you leave it all set up, which, at least for us, we're not doing that.
No, we have we use my office, which doubles as a whelping room and puppy room.
Yep.
So we start with the whelping box.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up making our own, but honestly, it's really cheaper to buy one.
Yeah, these days, yeah. But like at the time when we first started, we realized all the cons of having like a very flimsy whelping box. We used to like try to sit on the edge of it and it used to like collapse and it was a whole thing. So we designed our own whelping box.
I think you give me too much freedom with the whole designing my whelping box. It's really just 4 walls and a floor. And of course, there's a million little design things on the internet that anybody could look up. It's just a matter of going to Home Depot and picking up the materials. Mm-hmm. I ended up buying wood for the whelping box that has like that plastic finish on it. Yeah. Like a Formica finish, so it's very easy to clean. I see people with just plywood whelping boxes that aren't sealed. That I would not do because you can't clean it. You
get a lot of liquid when they're having babies.
Yeah. There's a lot of fluids.
But it also depends on the female, right? Because, I mean, Journey was like a super clean whelper. And then we had Twiggy, and Twiggy was like just like her grandmother. And, well, I don't know, Vivian wasn't that messy. But there was blood everywhere.
I mean, Remy and Meadow were really like, bloody. It was like a flood. So it's super important that you have non-porous wood on your whelping box, mm-hmm. and that you're able to clean it and disinfect it regularly, and of course in between litters. So you have the whelping box, and then what we do is, because it's on a tile floor, we put those gym mats underneath it, and then put gym mats on the floor of the whelping box, so you have double cushioning. Mm-hmm. And then we use a lot of printless newspaper, the
packing paper.
Yes, the big ones. I think it's 24 by 36 big sheets of paper. And we use that for all kinds of things, including absorbing the lots and lots of fluid that are involved in whelping a litter. In this case, there was not a lot of fluid. There's not a lot of puppies. We didn't know that at the beginning. We thought that was just normal. Turns out we had our first 2 girls who were just a flood everywhere.
Yeah, pretty dramatic too. And it was a lot of pacing and then just like rubbing everything on everything. Like, I mean, I remember like coming in for like Remy's first litter and being like, what the heck happened to
it's like a crime
dog? Your arms were covered in blood. And I was like, I didn't think it would look like an actual human labor when I walked in.
No, it was a mess. And she was a great mom and a pretty good whelper, Remy. Mm-hmm. But it's messy. It's a messy thing.
Well, and it depends on the female, right? So some females are like not messy or don't have that much fluid, and other females are just like a murder scene.
Yeah. So Remy was our first mama. She ended up being a great foundation bitch because, like all beginners, she just got pregnant every time we asked her to. Yep. So 4 litters in a row. We bred her once a year. So we took time off in between, and she never had any issues. And every time we bred her, she got pregnant. So we thought, hey, this is easy.
This is not a big deal.
I don't know what everyone's whining about.
Mm-hmm. We've never
bitches
had any
not
problems.
Getting pregnant. Our bitches get pregnant all the time. Uh-huh. So Remy gave us an unrealistic expectation, I think, into the world of dog breeding in that regard.
I mean, she did a lot of positives too. I think we learned a lot through her.
Oh yeah, I look at Remy like I look at Ty. Like Remy was, she took care of business and helped us as beginners, as newbies, through the process of, the very steep learning curve of how to whelp a litter and raise a litter of puppies properly.
Yep. And same thing with Ty on how to properly breed females and like what the right way to do it.
I never had to worry about him. Nope. He took care of business. He would tell me when the females are ready, not bother them when they're not. It's when you get a dog that really is just naturally good at what they do, it just makes things easier for you. And Remy and Ty certainly did that for us. So we have the whelping box. We have the mat in the whelping box. We have the printless paper. And then that whole night before, it's always at night, folks.
Always.
Dogs are rarely born during the day. We've had a couple litters that have been born during the day, but most of them you labor all night or they're born in the middle of the night.
Or like super duper early in the morning after you were up all night. Mm-hmm.
Because this was a small litter, I was comfortable sitting with Journey all night. So Journey was an interesting case in that she's not typical. You do start to take their temperature about a week prior to their whelping date. and you look for a temperature drop down in the 97, 98 degree mark. Dogs normally run from about 100 degrees to 102 at the high end, but anywhere around 100 is a normal temperature for a dog. So you're looking for a drop in temperature. And when you get that drop, then you are going to have puppies in the next 24 hours. What Journey did for us last time was show me that not all dogs have read the manual on how to tell me when they're ready to go. So Journey sort of surprised us. I knew she was going to have puppies. We were watching her carefully, but I had no idea that she was actually in labor because she was literally laying on a bed next to the dinner table as we were having dinner.
Yeah. And we kept like looking over her like, is she like labor panting or is it just hot outside? Because it was summer and it was hot out.
And we moved her downstairs and she popped her first puppy out 30 minutes later. So this time I was much more careful with her. I took the temperatures like I always do for all of the females, but I was much more like, maybe I'm not going to see that temperature drop, so I need to be much more vigilant on her other behaviors. And I just sort of had a feeling that she was kind of going into labor the other night, so I decided to spend the night downstairs in the whelping room watching TV, where it'd normally be upstairs, and this way I can just move her into the whelping box if she does start actively pushing. So that went on for, let's see, I was down there, I think, about 7:30 at night, and at 12:30, nothing had happened. And, of course, the whole house is asleep, and I need my sleep. I'm not good at staying up. And I thought, maybe I'm just imagining things. Maybe she's actually not in labor. So I was like, let's go upstairs and sleep in my own bed. So I brought her upstairs, and she hopped on my bed, and her water broke all over my bed.
That's always how it goes, right?
Always how it goes. So we went back downstairs and started over again. And that was 12:30. And I think the first puppy was born, I want to say 6:30, 7 in the morning, something like that. I have it written down. I figured she'd be easy because it's 3 puppies. But because the uterine horn is big, there's no guarantee that the 3 puppies that she's pregnant with are on a part of the uterine horn that's very close to the exit, right? Mm-hmm. They still would, if they're on the end of the horn, they still have to move down to the birth canal, which can take hours and hours. In a dog that had a regular size litter, puppies would be born at regular intervals as the puppy that's far away is sort of moving down the uterine horn.
Like even like her last litter and then Twiggy's last litter, because they both had like 7, right?
No, your dog had 8.
8? Well, they both had a lot of puppies. It was consistent. It was like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Every puppy would come 30 minutes. And then they would have, after 2 puppies, they would have like an hour break. And then be 30 minutes, an hour break, 30 minutes,
and then they can actually switch horns. So they have like this normal labor pause. And that can go on for hours.
Yep.
And then they switch to the other horn and then more puppies are born. So that's why getting an x-ray is so important. Because you have an idea of how many puppies you're expecting. So if you have 4 puppies born and then she seems to stop active labor, and you haven't done any x-rays and you're not good at palpating their abdomen to see if there are more puppies, you might think you're done and start packing up, and all of a sudden she goes back into labor and starts pushing puppies out. That technically hasn't happened to us, but we have been surprised by puppies.
Yes, it has. What are you talking about?
Well, we have been surprised by a puppy.
2. What are you talking about? It was Meadow, and we were pretty sure she only had 6, and she had 8 in there. We packed up when the 6th one came out, and she seemed to stop going in labor. I think I went upstairs to take a nap, and you were like low-key taking a nap on the couch, and then Rem got out of her whelping box with her puppies.
No.
Woke you up.
No, you're confusing 2 stories. Yes, you went upstairs, and I had cleaned everything up, and Meadow was happily nursing her 6 puppies. And I just happened to open my eyes and look over, and there was a 7th puppy. And then 10 minutes later, an 8th puppy. Mm-hmm. So, then you got to clean the whelping box up all over again. But by the time the 7th and 8th puppy come, basically all she does is, she could just have a hiccup and the puppies just slide right out because she's given birth to so many puppies prior to that. Now, the other story you were talking about with Remy was the first time we had a double litter. Remy had her puppies. She was on one side of the room. And 10 days later, then Meadow was in labor.
Yeah.
At that time, we did not put fences around the whelping box. The whelping box was in a separate room with a door and all of that. There was no fence around the whelping box, which keeps the female sort of in the whelping box area. We learned our lesson there, because sometimes when the female's around day 5, when their hormones really start to get nutty, sometimes what they'll do is they get a little anxious and they start moving puppies around the room. Remember that?
Yep.
And that's no good, especially when you work. I always have a camera on them, but you don't want to look in your box and see that there's only 4 puppies and your bitch is gone and she's somewhere in the room storing your puppy on a couch or underneath something.
On the other hand, a big lesson we learned is we had 2 females with different litters in the same room without fencing as well, which we would never do now because of, this one time Rem came over and like tried to nip at one of Meadow's puppies.
Right.
And so it's a safety hazard on that end too. So they really need to have their own areas where each female can't
where they can be safe from everyone else and everyone else can be safe from them.
Yep.
For sure. But to get back to the story, so Rem had free roam of the room. I had fallen asleep on the couch on the other side of the room waiting for Meadow to start active labor. Meadow was a very difficult pre-labor dog. She was so anxious and she just paced for hours and hours and hours. And I had delivered a letter 10 days prior. I was already sleep deprived. And I had fallen asleep on the couch accidentally. Meadow was in the whelping box and Rem left her litter and came over and woke me up and told me that Meadow was about to have a puppy. And females don't leave the box like that.
No.
It was really amazing.
Especially with 10-day-old puppies.
She woke me up and I was like, what's going on? And she sort of looked over at Meadow and I saw Meadow was actively pushing. And then Rem went back to her puppies and I started delivering Meadow's puppies. So, moms, because Remy is Meadow's mom. Moms are multiple moms in one room. That's always a good thing.
Yep, you live and you learn, right?
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the whelping box once the litter has arrived. Mm-hmm. So Mama has given birth to all of her puppies. She's been cleaned up. The box has been cleaned up. The garbage has gone out to the garbage can because it's pretty smelly. And she's comfortably, cleanly laying in her box with all of her puppies nursing. By the way, the fact that they come out and start nursing, they could start nursing in under a minute after being born is just incredible to me. Some moms get kind of freaked out about that and are really focusing on delivering the next puppy.
Or cleaning them, obsessively cleaning them.
The more experienced, calmer moms can have a whole litter nursing on the milk bar and still be giving birth to other puppies and manage to twist around and clean that new puppy without stepping on the current puppies that are there. Generally what we'll do is once they start coming out and mom starts pushing again for the next puppy, we have a little homemade incubator that we've made, which is just a big Tupperware box, but we've used it for every single litter. Yeah,
it's kind of like our little Lucky Tupperware box.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of breeders have those Lucky charms that they use. We have a whelping blanket that we've used for every single litter.
Yep.
And we have the little Tupperware box, and what we do is we hang the heat lamp over top of it. So when the puppies are away from mama, they're in a warm spot and mom can work on pushing that next puppy out.
Yep. And by the way, the warm spot is we have a grooming table with all the materials on it, and we put the heat lamp over the grooming table. So they're not in the box in a little Tupperware box. They're out of the box on a table to the side where they're getting heated. And then we're able to move around and get everything situated and then take the puppies back to mom.
Right. So it's constantly shuffling the puppies around, because as soon as you take the puppies away from mom, she will generally get very anxious and upset and want them back.
Yeah.
So it's constantly, okay, you want them? Here. Oh, you're pushing? Let me take them. Oh, you're not pushing? Here, have them back.
Well, and also we have to keep in mind that a lot of the times when they start nursing, it will induce labor.
Right.
So once you get all the puppies lined up and everyone's nursing, of course she's going to start going into labor, because the milk bar and all the hormones are pushing through her body to have another puppy. Right. And then we have to remove all the puppies again and start over.
Yes. So that's one of the most important reasons you put a puppy on the milk bar right away, is that it will get her body to contract her uterus to contract and then push out any placenta that's left over, and of course the next puppy that's
I
coming
think that
along.
was the big thing for Twiggy, when she would not let them nurse on her, and we had to hold her to get them to nurse on her to get the next puppy to come out for her first litter.
Right. Remember Meadow, when her first litter?
Oh my gosh.
That first puppy came out and Meadow was like, what the heck is that? She was ready to jump out of the box and run away.
Yep.
And we actually had to hold her down, put the puppy on the milk bar, and once the puppy started nursing, it's like this light went off, this light bulb lit up over her head, like, oh. And all of her maternal instincts just flooded in, and she was like, oh, and she totally relaxed.
It's amazing.
That's the funnest part about whelping a litter from a first-time mom. The rest of it is just anxiety and nerves because you don't know anything about this mother and how she's going to handle all of this. The sweet thing about seeing a new mom is seeing her maternal instincts come out.
Even the goofiest, most immature dog.
Are you talking about Meadow?
Meadow. Well, and then we're gonna have. Well, I don't think Twiggy's exactly mature either, and she did great.
No, I wasn't worried about Twiggy. I wasn't worried about Journey, but Meadow, I was like, how is this goofball going to handle this?
Yeah, and then we have Evie coming up next.
Yeah, talking about goofballs.
Oof, she's going to be. It will be interesting. I think she's going to be just like Meadow. It's going to we're going to have to hold her down, put a puppy on, and all of a sudden it's going to be like, click.
There's like this old wives' tale that once you breed them, that calms them down. It's like that same old wives' tale. You neuter them to calm males down. That's not true either. Your dad keeps asking me when exactly is Meadow going to calm down, and she's 8.
Yeah, I don't think that's
and retired, long retired from having puppies. So no, I don't think that breeding changes them. Do you?
No, I think the only thing it changes is like your relationship with them. Like I definitely think having like my own female that I raised by myself and then whelping her, it definitely made our connection much stronger, and I didn't realize that at the time.
I'm not sure that's the same for me. The bottom line is I don't think the dog changes. It doesn't calm them down.
No, I don't think the dog changes.
Meadow was just as immature once those puppies left as she was before they were born. We love Meadow. She's our special girl. Okay, so each puppy is then born. We got a little sidetracked there, but let's go back to after the puppies are born. Each one comes out, they get dried off, they get weighed. We make sure that we write everything down.
It's from like if they have a full tail, a half tail, a bobtail. We mark their colorings. We give them a name. So we try to get as much information down as possible, and we usually take a picture of them as well.
Right. So we try to come up with particular markings that would be unique so that we can tell that puppy apart from the next puppy coming out. So it might be a star on their head, or definitely we mark whether they're full tail or a bobtail. That's important going forward. And yes, if we're having a normal large litter, we then snap a picture, name them. We usually name them something really stupid because the whole point of puppy names is that people don't keep them. No. They go to their new homes and they get a new name. And there's a lot of puppies, so we don't want to use good names. I think we've made that mistake a couple of times.
Yeah, there are definitely a handful of names. I'm like, gosh, darn it.
Yeah, I wish we hadn't used that as a puppy name because that would have been a great adult name.
Well, I might use some of them one day.
I think one of them was Truly.
I love Truly, but now it's like a drink, so it kind of like.
But I've never met a dog named Truly. Have you?
True. No, I haven't.
That's a great name, and that actually did not come from the drink.
No,
that came from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I'm dating myself, but there was a character in there named Truly Scrumptious.
Yep.
And so we named one of the puppies, I think, out of Meadow's litter.
Yeah, it was Cole's sister. They
Lucy.
came for training. Lucy, yeah.
Lucy. So she was originally Truly. I don't have such a great memory. Sophie is my memory on all of this stuff. Who's related to who and who was which litter. Sometimes I'll go, no, you're wrong. But most of the time, Sophie's correct with that memory of who's who. So we had Truly, and did we have somebody else that we named that I was like, darn it? I can't remember. Truly was definitely one of them, though.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple. I can't think of the names. I loved Cinnamon. I mean, I feel like that's kind of a basic name. But Cinnamon
that wasn't her name, though. I don't think
it was.
It
was Cinnamon.
That was her nickname.
Yeah, what was her nickname?
Yeah, what was her actual name? Was it? No, it wasn't Cinnamon, was it?
We would call her Cinnamon Girl. I always just known her as Cinnamon Girl.
Yeah, she had a lot of nicknames.
Yeah, she did. We really liked her.
Oh, gosh, she was so cute.
Yeah.
That's Winnie.
Yep, she was like second litter.
Yeah, she was
And then she went
pie.
with one of our, the first puppies we had, Teddy. She went with the first litter, yeah.
He was Ace,
Mm-hmm.
and she went with him. Yeah, they live nearby. Yeah, so we try to pick stupid names that nobody would ever want to use. I mean, Bonnie and Clyde, those are two perfectly decent names.
Mm-hmm.
Last litter was hard for me, actually, to remember. Journey's litter was hard for me to remember the names of each puppy because we were so conscious about it. That was the ladies of the 80s litter, and we don't normally do that. But because they were all female, which was weird, and their mom's name was an 80s rock band, we decided to name them all from ladies of the 80s. And that was much harder for me to remember because usually the names are stream of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's like they have Peanut because they have a little peanut on their head, or
Ace was because it looked like it was like Ace of Spades on his head.
His head. So like we name it based off of what they look like, and so it's much easier to remember that than it is to remember like, oh, it's a theme, and this is the theme. This one's named after this one from this theme or whatever. It was much harder, and they were all females too, so it was even more difficult because when you're having them in order, like you'll have like a female, a male, a female, female, male, male.
Much harder. This was all female, female, female. And
they were all black.
Yeah.
So it was even harder. And then like the two blues were like the two last ones too. So the order didn't help at all.
Remember when Jacob was really salty because he wanted to name the last puppy of a litter Caboose?
Yeah, and then he went to sleep and didn't get to name one of them Caboose.
I've never gotten a name.
He obsessed over it, and then the next time he had the opportunity to do it, he was like, nah, I don't want to do it anymore. Caboose. Now that's a dumb name. Perfect for puppies. So Bonnie and Clyde is cute. It's cute for this litter because it's just the two of them. Cole was easy. He was black as coal. And what was Twiggy's name?
I don't remember. I remember Meadow's original name.
How could we not remember Twiggy's name? That's crazy.
I don't remember Twiggy's name at all. We should check the book.
Yikes.
Yeah, no. I remember Meadow was Lexa because I named her after the 100.
Yeah, that was a dumb name too.
Better than Caboose.
Remember when Claire wanted to name a dog Taco Bell?
Oh my gosh. I was like,
no, Claire. We're not naming
name
it
one
Taco
Bell.
I can hear Claire now. No. I did not want to name them.
You have to preface that she's French, by the way.
Yeah. I wanted to name her Bell, not Taco Bell. I specifically remember it was Taco Bell.
I remember you want to name one Bell and the other one Taco.
Oh, was that it?
Yes,
one
Bell. So we named one Bell, but I was like, we're not naming another one Taco. Like, it's not happening.
Poor Claire. Claire was actually at our Remy's second litter.
Yeah, second litter.
She lived right down the road at the time when we lived in our old house, and she wanted to come for the whelping. And being newbies, we were like, sure.
And this was one of the ones during the afternoon, so this was a day birth.
But that's because it was a giant snowstorm.
Yeah.
So Claire actually walked to our house because you couldn't drive because there was so much snow outside. And she came and she stayed for the whole litter. It was went off without a hitch. It was an easy delivery. And then right after the last puppy was born and cleaned off and on the milk bar, she went to touch the puppies, which she had been doing the whole time.
Yep.
Do you remember this?
Yep.
She went to touch the puppy and Remy growled and showed her teeth. And I was like, oh, it's time to leave, Claire.
Yep.
But it's like Remy was so focused on delivering them. And then once the puppies were out, that mother protection instinct came out and Claire had to leave right away.
Yep.
And not generally, we don't let anybody visit the puppies prior to 3 weeks of age. Not family, nobody.
Nope.
Because moms are naturally really protective, and we want to respect that and keep their stress level low. So if you are letting other dogs in the mom space, I see that on Instagram and TikTok all the time.
And I'm like, what are you doing?
They let the other dogs who live in the house, go and sniff the puppies, and the mom's clearly upset about that.
Oh, well, and we've had that horror story from our friend breeders. Mm-hmm. And they had, I think
they were German Shepherds,
and they let their male, who was the father of the litter, roam around with the mother and the puppies, and she came home and he killed every single one of the puppies.
Was it the male? Or was it another female? I feel like it was another female.
I don't know, but whatever it was, they killed the whole litter, and the mother was just shaking in the corner. I can't even,
I think it was another female in the house.
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed to believe that was a male that did that. Males generally stay out of female business, but another female would definitely do that. And that's another reason you want to make sure that everybody is fenced with their whelping box. Is then there's a fence around it, but there's a place where the mom can jump out of the whelping box and lay directly on the floor and stretch out and cool off. Her food and water would be there, never in the whelping box, because you wouldn't want it to accidentally dump over and a puppy to get wet and chilled. So she should be able to have a space outside the whelping box but still be contained. And this way, if she gets the inclination to move a puppy, the only place she could move it is just outside the whelping box. She's not running around a house and storing it in your closet, where then you end up finding a dead puppy because it's gotten chilled because she's forgotten where it is. So, I see that a lot on TikTok too, where there's, moms carrying their puppies all around the house. Oh, look, she's bringing her puppies to bed with me.
It's so cute. And I'm like, it's so dangerous.
Yeah. And that's a stressed mom. That's a mom who doesn't feel comfortable in the whelping box or the place you provided for her. She doesn't feel safe. So she's looking for a place to move the puppies, a very natural instinct. If they don't feel safe in the quote den they're in right now, they're going to find another den in your house. So a female who's trying to move puppies is a female who feels unsafe. Yep. So you got to look around in your surroundings. Can we put up solid barriers? We have fencing that we lay blankets over, so it's the walls are solid and the mom feels comfortable. We also have her in a corner, in the side of the room, and we don't let the other dogs go near her for at least a week, 10 days. The mom will tell us when she starts to feel more comfortable with that. Yep. So the puppies are born. They're nursing well. And now we're going to talk about that first week.
Yeah, the most stressful week.
Most stressful week for us, for sure. I always forget how stressful week 1 is. It's like when human moms give birth. You forget how painful it is, and then you go and have another kid. And you're like, why did I do this again? Because labor is so painful. I always forget this part. The first week is super stressful for me. Mm-hmm. Generally, I will spend 3 to 5 nights, depending on the mom and the situation, down in the whelping room, open up a bed down there, and I sleep down there. And that means, like with a newborn human baby, I'm getting up every hour or so and helping mom wrangle all those puppies onto the milk bar because they tend to wander away in the whelping box. And moms get very stressed out about that. Some moms are better than others at wrangling puppies. Some moms are absolutely terrible at it.
Yep. And it also comes with maturity too. Like Vivian was really, really good at it, but it's because she had a lot of experience where I think Meadow had a pretty hard time. It was like any puppy that strayed away, it was like she was like crying and then would move and then leave all the other puppies there, and it would be like a whole
so that's
mess.
What the moms do, right? They have 7 of 8 puppies nursing calmly, and then there's one puppy on the other side of the whelping box who's just crying and crying and crying, and an inexperienced, anxious mom will get up, knock 7 puppies off the milk bar, and go and try to wrangle that puppy that's on the other side of the whelping box.
Which means now everyone's screaming.
Now you have 8 puppies screaming.
And they're running all over the place, and she's stepping on them, and it's just chaos. Yes. So it's a lot of just experience with the moms, and then kind of letting them figure it out while you're in the room with them. So like Journey was downstairs and there was only one on the milk bar, and the other one was wandering around screaming, and she's whining for my help. But like in the middle of the night, I'm not going to be able to do this. So she has to figure it out on her own. And she did. She put her paw out, and the puppy went right down her paw, right to the milk bar. And so, I think that's also a big piece of like, you can't do everything for them. They need to figure it out.
And what puppies are instinctually, what newborn puppies will do is they'll actually make bigger and bigger circles until they catch the scent of their mom. They are, of course, born blind and deaf, right? Their eyes are closed, their ears are closed, so they can't see or hear anything. The only senses they have is touch and smell, right? So they will start to circle, right? Pull themselves around in a circle, and the circle gets bigger and bigger until they catch the scent of mom, and then they move in that direction. So a really savvy mom will reach her paw over so that when they are doing that circle, they either hit her paw or smell her paw. And like Sophie said, then follow her leg back down to her body. Or she'll reach over with her nose and sort of nudge them and encourage them to come towards her. Or real savvy moms actually reach out with their paws or their muzzles and just roll the puppy right to them.
Because they just roll everywhere. The first 3 weeks, they're like little roly-poly-olies.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get how they can't stand. They can pull them. They can't technically crawl. They can pull themselves along with their legs, but they can't technically crawl. I don't understand how they fall over. You're already laying down. No, why do you fall over?
Well, that big belly, Mom.
I know. It's just their shape, but it always cracks me up. I'm like, you're already on the ground. Why are you rolling over?
It's funny when they're learning how to walk and they just like all of a sudden roll down something like 3 rolls, 3 tumbles. And I'm like, you barely even fell. It was so dramatic. It's like watching like soccer players get injured. Like so dramatic for what?
Yeah. So that first week, there's a lot of sleep deprivation for me because I will sleep down there with them. I did not sleep with Journey in this litter because she just has 2 and she's a really competent mom. And she seemed to be doing really well. Although interestingly today, she's been night 2, she was more stressed. So she woke me up at 2:30 last night. So I've been up since 2:30 because she was just feeling really stressed. And when that happens, I assume that they are in some pain, that the mom is in some pain. She's probably having some uterine contractions, which is still normal. The uterus is shrinking back down to size, and that can be painful and make her super restless. Mm-hmm. And when she's restless, then the puppies are restless.
And then she starts digging, and then they create like little pockets, and the puppies get stuck in the pockets and get suffocate.
And really digging is a pain response. Yep. We learned that over the years as well. So you'll see moms digging like, oh, look, she's nesting. That's a pain response. Yep. So that's usually when she's having a contraction, whether she's in labor or whether, like I say, it's postpartum and the uterus is still contracting. So I look at that differently than I did in the beginning. Now I say, okay, I see a pain response. Let me go help her and try to get her settled. Mm-hmm. But it is nerve-wracking because she'll upset all of the mats that are in the whelping box, and then they're all out of kilter, and puppies, you always worry about puppies getting stuck under mats and suffocating. So yeah, I was up 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then at 4:30 I just decided to stay up because she just was really restless last night. Mm-hmm. So the first night she didn't need my help at all. Night 2 she really needed my help. So you have to kind of roll with the punches and see what each night brings. But that first week is a stressful one, and I always forget that. Mm-hmm. It's like I always think, why do I do this? This is so stressful. This is horrible. Why did I do this again? Why do I do this to myself?
And then my first experience was staying down there with Twiggy the first time, and I was like, damn, you've been doing this for like how many years? And oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. I was like stressing out with Twiggy the whole time, and she was a new mom
because you worry about your mama. Mm-hmm. I came down last night at 2:30 and the room was too hot. You know, it's hard to get that balance. You want the ambient temperature to be warm, but not too hot. But because of the way our thermostats work, that room is not terribly well regulated. When you only have 2 pups and 1 mom, she'll be able to keep them warm. So I don't worry about the room being too warm. But last night, with all the doors closed, it was much too warm. And I think that's part of the reason she woke me up at 2:30. She was just overheated. But then you see them panting and you think, oh my God, what if she has a calcium deficiency and she needs to go to the emergency vet? You know, these are the stories that you tell yourself at 2:30 in the morning when you're sleep deprived and your dog is shaking and panting. You try to determine, you know, whether she is just overheated or whether she is running a fever. Maybe she had a retained placenta. You don't know at this point. So that week 1 is always stressful for me.
Yep.
What I always tell myself, I listen to a woman who, she's a vet and she specializes in reproduction and for dogs, and she just constantly reminds people, don't call your emergency vet before you assess the situation. Is your bitch acting normal or is she acting sick? So I do try to take a step back and look at her and say, well, she's not really acting sick. She's drinking. If I offer her food, she's eating. She's pooping, she's peeing, she's walking fine. She's just panting and shaking right now. And that can be normal in the postpartum period. So you take all of the different puzzle pieces and you put them together and decide whether is the mom in distress or is this just a normal response? But that's nerve-wracking, and it's definitely not for everyone.
Mm-mm. I mean, I think the labor in general is not. If you can't get through the labor part, you really can't.
I love the labor part.
I know that's my favorite part, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't want to see that."
Oh, it's so gross. I love it.
I think it's amazing.
But I also have 2 children who are not squeamish at all.
I know.
And I love that.
Yeah.
No, nothing, it doesn't. Oh, the other thing that you have to deal with postpartum is the postpartum diarrhea.
Oh, yep.
That's quite stressful because, and it's normal again because she is eliminating all of the parts of pregnancy that she doesn't need anymore, right? And plus she is stimulating the puppies and, consuming the puppy's urine and feces at this stage. So she's got to eliminate that. So the first week or 10 days is pretty much straight liquid diarrhea.
But it's scary because it's like, I hope she's hydrated enough and she's feeding all these puppies. And if something happens to mama, that means you have to hand feed 7 puppies every 3 hours.
Right.
Which is a huge responsibility.
And is your mom dramatic or is she a trooper? So, and you have to know that as well. Like Meadow was quite dramatic, but also really had a tough time after her second litter. I would do that differently now. I preemptively treat them with natural remedies to at least try to keep the diarrhea down to a dull roar. And then I set up paper right outside the whelping box. So mom, if she's got to poop, she's got to poop. She'll poop on the paper. And then when I come in the room, I just roll the paper up, just like you're paper training a puppy, and throw it out. So that's been a good method that we use because you never want the mom to be like, feel bad about having to poop in the house. Like my bitches know it's okay. That's what the paper's there for. Yep. And any other time they would never poop or pee in the house. So when you got to go, you got to go.
Yep.
So that first week is a lot. It is. It's a lot. But once the puppies get to be, I don't know, what do you say, about 2 weeks?
2 weeks, and we can take the pig rail out, which the pig rail is just this PVC pipe that we put around the box so the mom can lean on it but not squish a puppy.
Against the wall, right?
Against the wall. Once they're big enough where, like, if they do get squished, they can still breathe fine. I feel like that's when I'm like...
Yeah. So that's like about 10 days, and that's usually when the diarrhea subsides for mom. The puppies are hardy enough that I can turn the heat lamp off. The pig rail can come out. And now you have a 10-day-old or 14-day-old puppy. And really, they're quite hardy at that point. Yep. Yeah, I would agree. I would say that is when my stress level starts to go down.
And then the stress of having to set up the toddler room and which configuration we're going to do this year comes in. So, I mean, much less than the first week. But, yeah. Yeah.
There's other stressors as they age, through their 8 weeks with us. But those first 10 days are definitely the hardest.
I definitely think they're the worst. Honestly, like before she has the puppies, until she has them and she goes back to normal, I always worry about, because like what if complications happen during labor? What if she doesn't go into labor? What if a puppy dies inside? There's just all these things that you're thinking about.
All those unknowns. And I'll be really brutally honest. I'll lose an entire litter before I'll lose a mama.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, the puppies are a bonus, but mom is always my number one priority. And I would never want to put her in a situation where I had her do something like have a litter of puppies and it negatively impacted her. Fortunately for us, they bounce right back. They always have, and they're incredible. Once they start weaning the puppies at 3 weeks, they're back walking with us, playing fetch. Their bellies suck right up. It's incredible.
It's pretty amazing, yeah.
But that's also the key to breeding young dogs. Breed them young, retire them young. That also freaks me out when I see that online, when people are like, oh, it's her first litter and she's 6. Okay, that's straight up abuse.
Yep.
And should never happen.
Nope.
My opinion is they should be bred, young and then retired young and then spayed and then
go
enjoy
back to a happy home
the rest of their lives without all that responsibility, except if they want to be aunties. And we have different level of aunties in the house.
Yep. I would say number one auntie is Vivian.
Oh, Vivian loves puppies.
Man.
Loves them.
If she could have puppies still, she would still be breeding, for sure. She loves breeding. She loves puppies.
Yes. She would breed twice a year if,
we let her, yeah.
Yep. If she wasn't spayed, she would have just continued it. She was a really great mama. And when she had her litter of 4, I guess it was her second litter with us, Journey was a puppy. I just brought Journey home. And Journey would hang out with the puppies while Vivi would nurse them. Do you remember that?
Yep. She was so great. And I mean, I think that's why Journey is such a good mama too. Is like her instincts were already coming in then, and she was still a puppy.
So she really got to see Vivian do all of that. And Vivian was so like undisturbed that Journey was, laying right next to her while she's nursing her 4-week-old puppies. And then it reversed, right? When Journey had her litter last time, she let Vivi actually clean her puppies, her very young puppies, while they were really while young. She was nursing them.
Yep, and I think it was like sooner than we thought that Journey was going to let Vivian.
She was like, "Oh, Auntie Viv, no problem."
Yep, and she wouldn't let anyone else. It was only Vivian.
Yeah.
So they definitely have a unique whelping relationship than anybody
else. Vivi
has
good vibes with the puppies.
Yep,
she really does, and it's so sweet to see that. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Mm-hmm. So staying in the first week marker, right, from birth to day 7, the things that we have to do are weigh them every day.
Yep.
And actually, sometimes, depending on the litter, we weigh them twice a day in that first week to make sure that they're gaining weight consistently. Sometimes right after birth, you'll see a slight drop in weight. That's normal. But you should see, the next day, you should see it start climbing again. So tracking weight, weighing them the same time every day, I think is a super important thing to do to make sure that every puppy, particularly if you have a larger litter, that every puppy is getting enough access to that milk and that they're growing in a steady way.
And if they're not, then taking that smaller puppy and putting them on a bigger teat so they can get as much nutrients as possible, and taking that huge puppy that's drinking all the milk and putting
off of that very valuable lower bar and putting them on between the 2 front legs. That is the least nutritious milk there.
Yep.
So you're going to take your larger puppies and sort of move them up the milk bar, and your smaller puppies and move them down the milk bar to make sure that everybody's getting equal access to the richest, most nutritious milk.
Yep.
So we'll do that. We'll weigh them every day. Since they're Australian Shepherds, we do dock their tails, but we don't cut their tails.
No, we ban them.
So we banned their tails. Anybody who's followed us for all of these years probably is familiar with that. Banding is exactly what it sounds like. It's literally taking a rubber band and putting it on the tail, which is painless. It just cuts off the circulation to, the tail, and the tail ends up drying up and falling off, similar to an umbilical cord.
Yep, and keep this in mind that the tail does not have a bone formed in it yet. It's just cartilage. The bone forms later on in life, so which is why we do it as early as possible. So it's essentially just cartilage that's falling off.
No, it's not cartilage. So the cartilage develops later. That's what you mean by bone. So you're right. You're just using different words. So the tail is just a floppy piece of skin. The cartilage hasn't developed yet.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's why we ban tails on day 1. So 24 hours old, we ban the tails. We put the rubber bands on them because it's just a floppy piece of skin. There's nothing developed there. The puppies sometimes get a little fussy, but it's not traumatic. They don't have to go to the vet. There's no snipping. There's no blood. There's no stitches. Most of the time, the puppies will sleep through us putting the band on, and that's it. It's really no fuss, no muss. And then you get your wiggle butt, which is required in the AKC and ASCA in this country. So we did ban their tails yesterday.
Yep.
So they're done. We've been weighing them. They're enormous. Mm-hmm. Not a surprise because they have 10 stations to choose from and only 2 puppies. Mm-hmm. So they're like milk drunk all the time. We will have to watch them carefully because sometimes they can drink too much and give themselves diarrhea.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened last time.
Yeah. So that is something that we will watch for carefully, particularly because there's just 2 puppies. Because there's only 2 and she has 10 nipples, you will see the puppies favor, certain stations, and the stations that they don't favor will actually dry up. Mm-hmm. So, and that's important because we don't want her producing equal amounts of milk in every spot because she can get mastitis. If the puppies aren't drinking enough milk, she can get mastitis. So the puppies will naturally pick the nipples that they like, and the nipples that they don't nurse from will dry up. But we will watch Journey very carefully to make sure that she doesn't develop mastitis, which is more probable when you don't have enough puppies to nurse all of the possible stations. So we'll watch for that. Journey will get lots of TLC as far as food, because moms, we find that our moms are not particularly hungry in week one. Probably their stomachs are bothering them. They're exhausted, and their appetite is just not there. So we do cook for them, make them a lot of eggs. Canned food, anything to get them to eat. I'll make them fresh food, anything to whet their appetite so that they're getting some food in them. When Journey was super anxious last night, I did make her some food, some eggs, and I really encouraged her to eat. And then after that, she really calmed down. So I think she was hungry, and she just didn't even know it. We always have food available. We always have dry food available 24 hours a day to her, but most of our moms will not eat that first week unless we doctor it up with something really tasty.
And even if you like mix it in, they don't want to eat it the first couple days. And then we'll start mixing the food in slowly as time goes on. But for the first, 3 or 4 days, it's eggs and people food and chicken and all that stuff. Yeah.
So, and that's stressful for me too. That's the other thing I really hate, is I really hate seeing mom not hungry. That stresses me out, although it is normal. Moms really don't need to eat. That's part of why they eat the placenta.
Yep.
All of the placentas that come out, although that gives them absolutely ferocious diarrhea. So I try to limit that.
Or if they eat it too fast, they throw it up, which is like the worst thing
Sometimes they can't
ever.
digest it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty not squeamish, but man, it is disgusting.
Yeah. Well, that was Meadow. Obviously, that didn't agree with her, but
and she gobbled them down. We couldn't get them fast enough. She would move the puppy to the side and gobble down the placenta. And I was like, girl, we need to clean your puppy right now. Yeah, stop eating the placentas.
The point is, the placenta is incredibly rich in nutrients. So moms eat it. Wolf moms eat the puppy placentas because they're not leaving the den to go drink or eat in that first week. So the placenta is designed to sustain mama until she, there's such time where she can get up and go out and get something to eat and something to drink, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So this is all really natural stuff. I do try to limit the number of placentas they eat because we can provide them with food. They're not wolves. And like I say, it does make some mamas really, really sick. So I shouldn't stress when she's not hungry that first week.
But we do anyways.
But we do. So we'll weigh them. Their tails are done. We'll give mom TLC, and we'll just watch everybody carefully. And as the week goes on, everybody should settle in, and I should get more sleep, I think.
Yep.
And then we start on week 2. Oh, and we're also doing ENS, which is puppy culture. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that in a future episode, the different tactile stuff that we do for newborn puppies to help stimulate their neuron growth.
Yep.
Neuron connections.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it for whelping and week 1. It's a lot.
Yep, a lot.
I'm tired. I'm tired just thinking about it.
And we only have 2 puppies.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I think we should probably wind this up.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for joining us for episode 6. We do have a very special episode coming up for episode 7. We have a special guest, a geneticist. If you guys have listened to all the episodes, you know that I was obsessing over getting a geneticist to interview because I had so many questions on dog genetics and how things are passed along. And Paw Print Genetics was very gracious in hooking me up with their geneticist there, and he's going to come and speak to us in the next episode. So I am super excited about that. I hope you will join us for that as well. In the meantime, thank you for joining us for this episode, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Dog for Thought is written and hosted by me, Sara Brown, co-hosted by Sophie Brown, produced, edited, and original music by Jacob Brown. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.